Hey, welcome. Here I am. I know, I'm in somewhere new. I went out to my little room this morning. It's been raining so much here over the last 2 days. My room smells a bit damp. So I went, get back into the house, do my live stream from here while I've got the door open and let my room air out. Hopefully we get some breeze and a little bit of warmth. Would be nice. And my room will smell a little bit better. But anyway, that's what happens when you have a room attached to the side of the garage, I guess. Hey, Sister Carol. So, here we are. Chat with Matt. The date is the 8th of December, 2021. We're still ploughing through this year, like I'm getting dragged backwards through a hedge, really. So here we are. Chat with Matt. Half an hour or so. Hey, Jill, to talk about whatever's going on. I do have some questions and stuff, impetus written in. I'm just trying to navigate my computer, which is on the other side. I usually have the camera here, but that just looks into a corner. I'd much rather have at least something in the background that looks interesting. It's my old film industry training there. Bright light beings group, that's what we want. There I am. This is a room that I recently renovated, by the way. Where I'm sitting currently was right where a toilet was. It used to be a bathroom, and that back there, you can now see there's a bed there. It used to be a walk-in wardrobe in a previous iteration of this house's life that never really got changed. It just got sort of left in the middle of the house, and what was once a master bedroom turned into a family room, and then a new master bedroom with ensuite and walk-in wardrobe got built further down the house. So anyhow, time hot up here already. Wow, it's not hot here, that's for sure. Sister, it's not hot here. Standing strong in the knowledge that nothing is more powerful than the divine light that you are was a little poster that I put on notifying. It is time for us all on this planet right now to stand strong in confidence around who we be, so that we don't get so pushed around, not so heavily influenced by various dark controlling agendas that are quite intensely playing out on the planet right now. Nothing is more powerful than the light, the divine light that you are. We have to remember that. So we're holding space. This is Carol's son Jason, who's had a negative reaction spiritually more than anything, I think, to the jabs, to the Pfizer supposed what they call a vaccine. This is reasonably common, unfortunately. Reasonably common. I don't know what that is supposed to mean, but I've heard of this and worked with people around this before. That there's something in this procedure, I'll call it that, injection, that is somehow messing with people's connection to their higher self, light, soul, if you like. I know that seems a little hard to believe, far-fetched, that a chemical injected into us could create such a spiritual disconnect, but everything is energy, and a chemical concoction is an energy, and it can be programmed. There is considerable conjecture around the makeup of the chemicals in the mRNA thing, and one of the chemicals, compounds that are in there is, touted as graphene oxide. Graphene oxide is a very thin material of carbon. Looks a little bit like a razor blade under a microscope because it's basically one atom thick. But it's in a crystalline structure, and I do believe it does hold programs, vibrations, basically, just like a quartz crystal. Like I don't have a quartz crystal here. I've got some selenite. Oh, it's plugged in. I can try and show you. There's the bottom of the selenite. It's a lamp, basically, on my desk in here, right? It holds a vibration. They can be programmed. Quartz crystals can be programmed. No, I can't put my lamp back down because it's sitting on the cord. But anyway, it can hold a vibration, a program, right, an intention. I believe graphene oxide, this is only my own information, by the way, nothing, I can't really reference anything here, but because of its crystalline structure, it can hold a program. And so there's been, Rudolf Steiner predicted this. A lot of people have been worried about this, that this so-called quote-unquote vaccination will be disconnecting people from their souls. I don't want to put everyone into fear around that. Many of you potentially have had the vaccination or have, close family members, etc., who have had submitted themselves to this for whatever reasons. Yeah, Jill wrote, my dad in spirit told me the same thing. We need to energetically jumpstart people to connect them again, to help them reconnect. So, it's totally possible. I've watched some videos of some other energy healers who profess to have really, had good success in helping people reconnect to themselves, and they need to want to. They need to want to have the healing experience and come back to themselves. Yes, I know, Carol, he was vulnerable. I know. That's the thing. It's the thing with most of these programs, if you like, these influences, that they prey on the vulnerable. And many of our young people are feeling vulnerable at the moment because they're like fish out of water. It's like that old saying, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then it always feels stupid. It always comes up short. The world that we're currently living in, our society, is not geared up, is not aligned with what many young people have come in the world to do. So they're feeling very lost. They're feeling very disconnected from purpose, because this world is not giving them the opportunity. It's not accepting them as the being that they be. They're like fish, and they're being judged on their ability to climb a tree. The schooling system, the societal system, is not really giving them the opportunity to swim like a fucking fish, right? It's throwing them at a tree and then complaining that they're, or judging them harshly on their ability to climb it. As opposed to putting them in the water and celebrating their ability to swim. So it's very difficult. I'm in the same position with my kids as well. That this world is not. Yeah, and many of us as wayshowers are similar, but in some ways, our generation is somehow a little bit more resilient to this. We're a little bit more battle. In some ways, we're battle weary to it, but in other ways, we've got a level of acceptance and a level of resilience, or I'll use the term acceptance, around the process of the world doesn't really give us what we want, but we've developed coping mechanisms. The kids of today don't want to develop coping mechanisms to this, because it seems like I'll use the word sacrifice, and I can't think of the right word. It seems like a sacrifice for them to do so. It seems like a defeat for them to develop coping mechanisms to deal with a world that they're not choosing. So they are instead floating in a rather disconnected space, in a rather dispassionate, unintegrated, uninspired state. Many of them are, wondering why they're here and whether it's worth continuing their biological life on this planet, right? It's very common for them to be deeply questioning the validity in carrying on a planet in a situation that doesn't seem suited to them. Sister Jill said, yeah, they defo need to reconnect. Can't force things or people. I've had it. This is back to people who've been jabbed more than the kids. Success working with my essences, but can't do it for them. They may help if people request. Exactly. I probably missed a few comments. Have I? I was kind of off on one. Okay. All good. So yeah, so it's difficult for our young people, and I know several of you on these in this group have young people, older teenagers, adolescents, or even younger kids, right? Even coming up through their tween years, between 7 and 12, or 13 or whatever. They're not really teenagers yet, but they're definitely no longer children, and many of them are far wiser than their years would suggest. And they're, reflecting this disconnection and this discontent with a world that is not yet ready for them. It will be, but it's just not yet ready for them. Many of them came in to hold the energy, on the soul level, they came in to hold the energy of what they desire to create, right? The world is not going to be created unless there is a need for it, right? Evolution happens as a result of the energy moving ahead of it. And that's why those of us as wayshowers, which many of these kids are as well, they're coming in to establish this new paradigm, this new age. It's a hard road. It's a hard road to go first, because you're stepping into a vibration. You are choosing to emanate a vibration that the world has not yet adapted to accept. So it seems like we're always bashing our head against our wall and pushing shit uphill as we choose to be something that does not yet have foundation. But the only reason the foundations get built is because we create the need for it. We create the home for it. The vibration pulls manifestation, pulls reality material into manifestation, if you like. And so, sorry, this chair's very squeaky. I have to sit off the back of it so it doesn't keep squeaking. It's better for my posture anyway to sit up on the edge of the chair. So it's difficult, and we hold compassion for these souls and their incarnation as young people here on the planet who feel so lost. They are doing great work as holding the vibration and grounding it in onto the planet, but as a personality, they're not feeling satisfied. Many of them are, disenchanted is a polite way of they're fucked off, basically. Let's face it. And many of them are descending into depression, etc., and various coping mechanisms using, various substances, etc., to dull the pain of feeling so disconnected in a world that's not giving them an opportunity to feel purposeful and creative and expressive and expansive. So we hold space for Jason and many other young people who are going through this experience at this time. I have to maintain positive belief that this is all working out in some way or form, and that their experiences are not, quote unquote, a waste or a mistake. Okay, let's move on. So Sister Jen wrote in, I notice I am desiring comfort. I think there was a comma after that, and a reframe that it's okay for people to not like me. Better yet, that it's a good sign that people aren't liking me. I notice there's a part of me that struggles with me for fear of loss of opportunities and rejection from the group. Okay, so I talk a lot about this in my Bright Light Client Attraction program, that it is actually a very necessary step for us to get to the state where we can unapologetically, authentically, and expansively express our true self to the point where people either love us or hate us. Because many of us, as beings of light, have subdued ourselves, molded ourselves, people pleased our way into a state of being where the majority of people accept us. Right. So we've gone for the middle road of acceptance. We have chosen to temper ourselves down to a bland, non-offensive expression of self, where we go very carefully to not offend people. In doing so, we're robbing ourselves and others of the opportunity of having true relationship with us, right, and the light that we be. We're dulling our light down so as not to upset people who don't resonate with us. As long as we keep trying to play vanilla bland, we will never be very successful in the world as an influence, as a positive influence. We will keep sacrificing our desires and our expression to to rather stay acceptable to the masses. So part of attracting your best situations into your life, attracting your best clients, attracting your best, most aligned opportunities, people coming into your life, you must be willing to broadcast, to radiate your light expansively and intensively. We must be willing to speak our truth. We must be willing to be seen as the being that we be. That is going to upset some people. Some people are going to take affront to that because our light will irritate them because they are not of our vibration. And while that seems very scary and dangerous to us who have been persecuted on this planet over the last few thousand years, seems very quick. We've got, what comes after that judgment from people who haven't liked our light in the past is a form of persecution, right? We've been judged and then sentenced and then punished based on the being that we be in the past. So it's very, very difficult for us, many of us, to break out of the restrictions and the limitations, the fears and the doubt that it is safe for us to once again vibrate out there in the world. Susie said, I've been stepping into my power this week, rejected with love, a vaccine only. Well done, Susan. It's important, right, that we stop people pleasing, because as long as we keep doing so, the truth is no one will really fully accept us. This is the point. If we keep choosing to sacrifice who we be to stay likable, acceptable, then no one really appreciates us, because they can only really appreciate us when they truly receive us. And if we're not giving ourselves, then no one can receive ourselves. And so to truly help others and to truly have full or deeper, full is a sort of one of those completion words that doesn't really make any sense, but to have a deeper, I left my water somewhere, didn't I? I'm probably out of my room when I realised it wasn't suitable or wasn't conducive. But anyway, to have this deeper relationship with others, we need to be brave enough to show ourselves more fully. And unfortunately, that means some people are going to reject us, and that is going to trigger fears inside of ourselves and a degree of pain and grief and all of these other emotions that have been carried along with anger as well, right? That others aren't accepting us and that we feel that that is somehow diminishing our ability to survive. It's not, right? We have to give people the opportunity to either accept us or reject us. We have to weed out the sheep from the goats. There's no other way to living in a circle of collaboration, of community that is fully aligned with us. Because if we keep allowing people to stay around us who don't resonate with us, it's a drain on both parties. The kindest thing we can do for others is to show them our true self so that they get to make a choice whether they like us or hate us. In fact, whether they love us or hate us. And, I know hate's a strong word, but the point is, for some people, for many people, we are, as beings of light, too much for them. And that's okay. It's not our fault and it's not their fault. It is just natural energy mechanics. There's no match there. And it's not beneficial for both of us to stay in company under those circumstances, because we're both sacrificing to maintain a relationship that is going to go nowhere because there's no true alignment beneath it. So the best thing we can do, the most beneficial thing we can do, is to just be ourselves and see what falls apart and embrace what flourishes, because that's what will happen. Things will either blossom into a more beautiful expression of itself, in relationship and opportunity than you could ever dream possible, and other things will completely fall away to the point that they no longer exist in your perception, in your life, right? As opposed to staying mediocre in the middle, dealing with all of this shit and not really getting any full satisfaction from the relationships that you have. So it's a difficult path to tread, but this is, I think, what we're all waking up to. Sorry, I'm missing most of the comments that fly through at the moment when I get in a bit of a rave. I can't read at the same time. I will go back and have a look. In fact, I'll probably open them up here. what do I need to do? Oh, it is already open here. Now I need to open it a bit further. Just hang with me, guys. That's going to start making noise. Turn that down. Pause it so that I'm not looking at me moving. And then I can... so we're not supporting event or place segregates vaccinated. Yeah, so similar to what Susan wrote. Susan wrote that she basically, stepped into her power and made a stance that she's not supporting any event or place that segregates vaccinated with vaccine-free people. Have done this a couple of times, feel very free for it. I had this conversation with a councillor that I had written to. I wrote to all of my councillors, including the mayor, quite a long letter, or long for me anyway, a letter, stating my dissatisfaction with the current situation with the, vaccine passports and everything that's being implemented here, and imploring the council, our local council, to look at what they can do to bring unity back into our community, because I pointed out that our community is dissatisfied with the current situation. Anyway, one of the councillors wrote back and spoke to me about his situation with his business, right? He's in hospitality, so he has felt to mandate this situation. And I pointed out to him that any business that is supporting this segregation is not going to flourish. That is not going to flourish. I said that he even said before that he had much reservations as it felt very un-Kiwi, and I pointed out that it is very un-Kiwi, and most Kiwi people, most New Zealand people, will not support over the long term businesses that bow down to the government. And he said, but yes, the fines that they're, and I said, well, what would happen? I wrote to him, I said, what would happen if 50% of the businesses around New Zealand did not comply? Do you think the government would fine all of them? And what if they did? And what if all of the 50% of businesses around New Zealand who chose not to comply chose to take the matter to court? Right. Our court system simply can't cope with that, and our government simply doesn't have the resources to defend. And after the very first few cases, as has happened in New South Wales, in Australia, it will get thrown out of court. Right. These mandates are not under law. They're not legal in the true sense of the word, right? They're not lawful is the true sense of the word. They're not lawful. They go against our own Bill of Rights, our own constitution here in New Zealand. So the only reason the fines work is because everyone is scared of them. The only reason the fines work is that some people will pay them, right, or whatever, right? The government only has power over us as long as we keep giving them our power. If we, the people, stand up in a degree of unity, and it doesn't need 100%, it doesn't even need 50%, right? If 30% of us stood up in unity, the government would back right down, because the government doesn't have authority over us. The government works for us, the people. We live in a democracy, even though there has been our democracy is looking more like a dictatorship. It's been shown world over throughout history, when the people stand up, the governments back down. The army does not generally support the governments when the governments are being unfair. So, this is what's required, and this is the only way it'll stop. As long as people keep choosing to comply, as long as business owners complain about, I've been forced into this because of these big fines, and then go through with it, we're effed, right? And it's only when and of course, if only one or two people step out, then of course, they get bent over. But when a collective of people, a community of people stand together in unity and sovereignty and solidarity, right? The solidarity movement, the union movement, look what that achieved in workers' rights and stuff before they broke that up, before the dark agenda broke that up. We can go back to that. It's only an agreement between people. It is simply about people having conversations and going, hey, I'm really dissatisfied with this system. Hey, yeah, I am too. Well, let's stand together. And then we talk to some more people, and now 2 becomes 3, becomes 10, becomes 100 people choosing to be dissatisfied with the system and to not comply. And as more and more people choose to stand together in non-compliance, then the system breaks, right? And we get to reset. It's as simple as that, right? But that's not always easy to achieve when there's been a mass level of hypnotic psyops, right? Psychological warfare over the last 2 years, really, waged against the people. There are so many people who are disconnected from the reality and lost in basically programmed, brainwashed into compliance. So it's a difficult place we be, but with the discontent that's arising now, and people are really feeling it energetically, right? There's a real discontent in our society now that, more and more businesses are asking for, vaccine passports before they will let you enter. A lot of people are boycotting. A lot of people who are, vaccinated and even may have even downloaded their passports don't want to play in that game because, in general, New Zealanders are they pride themselves on living in a fair society, and they pride themselves on their kindness and their inclusivity. And this is really going against their nature. And so many people are discontent and rattled and unsure and staying home right now. The businesses are really struggling. So it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. Anywho's, let's. I know I have another question, and I'm way behind reading the comments. Yeah, exactly. So Susie wrote, that she has a new way of saying we're not vaccinated. So it's not that we're missing something, it's that we are vaccine free, right? So we put the word free in there. It's a much more empowered way of saying we haven't done something, So it's not that we're lacking, it's that we're expansive, right? We're vaccine free. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, Susie. Yes, a friend and I rejected a night out at a concert event that required us to show vac status, pay papers for entry. Went to a great open pack out pub instead. We are only truly valid control group in this experiment. Carol said, I love this. Being a people pleaser all my life, but I'm stepping out and speaking my truths. I'm okay with not being liked now. Yeah, it's an important, empowered step for us to find okayness with not pleasing people and not being liked and even being rejected and even being labelled. It's difficult, but very, very empowering, because when they lose that power over us, when they lose the power of calling us a name, like a conspiracy theorist or an anti-vaxxer, when that loses its effect over us, we become very, very powerful, right? Because name calling is one of their only real ways of keeping us down and small, vilifying us and trying to ostracize us from the community is one of their only ways of maintaining control over our society. So when we lose that resistance to that tactic of theirs to label us and then discriminate against us, full power to us, right? Jill said, I believe Romania is fighting mandates this way. Solidarity. This is how Eastern European broke free of the Soviet rule. It's true, right? And that's why a lot of Eastern Europeans are really quite strong in not allowing themselves to fall into this again, no matter where they are in the world. Audra wrote, I feel a shift coming in thinking from previously vaccinated people. Yeah, exactly. I feel that as well. I only hope we can welcome them with open arms and not I told you so mentality. Yeah, and I believe that's true. In a lot of the groups that I'm involved with, Voices for Freedom, etc., they are very, very inclusive of people who have chosen to take the vaccination in the past. Because a lot of people now are speaking out against vaccine passports rather than speaking out against vaccination itself, right? And the two are completely different topics. Ultimately, we can argue one of the reasons why vaccine passports is not good is that the vaccines themselves are quote unquote not good, beneficial, safe, etc. But the other way of arguing against vaccine passports is it's just not constitutional and it's dangerous breach in our sovereign free right and a dangerous precedent to what could come next, right? Taking the vaccine out of the equation and just looking at, is it valid for us to discriminate people against any particular medical procedure that they have chosen to take or not? So I think that's I think that's going to happen. Yeah, there'll always be some people who are belligerent and of activist mindset who will be of the "I told you so" mentality, but I don't believe they'll be in the majority of the people who are standing up in favour of change right now. Awesome, Jodelle. Hopefully, I said that right. I'm notoriously poor with name pronunciations of names that I don't recognise. But anyway, yes, I'm glad that that message has helped you. I'm coming back because I know there's another question. I don't know how much time I have left. I'm coming to the end of my time, but I will sneak this in. Where are we down here? Where's the question? From Genevieve. How do we fully let go of deeper... This is a sort of a big question, but I'll answer it as best I can in a brief amount of time. How do we fully let go of the deep-rooted anger of a life full of trauma? Do you have any suggestions, brother? I've done so much clearing and facing the fear and anger, but still I react in anger at times. I don't like that, as I am a fairy and don't want to be angry. Thank you, brother. Blessings. Okay, so one of the biggest helps I can give you, Sister Genevieve, is to let go of your resistance towards anger. Anger is a very, very natural emotion. Anger is a very important survival tactic of us, both spiritually and biologically. Anger arises whenever we feel that our needs are not being met. Now, of course, that is a perception, our needs being met, and we can modify our perception over time as to whether our needs are really being met or not. But needless to say, right, because we do get angry over things that we perceive is not meeting our needs when really potentially it is meeting our needs in a bigger ways. But from an egoic perspective, right, we are pissed off that something hasn't gone the way that we wanted it to go, even though if we step back, we can see that this is actually facilitating the changes that are required for us to get the bigger outcome that we desired, right? So we do need to be mindful about what is making us angry. But in general, this deep-rooted anger of a life full of trauma is normal and is healthy, right? It's not, quote unquote healthy that we've experienced so much trauma in our past, but it is what it is. We have. So if we have a life full of trauma, then we should be willing to accept that we're angry about that and not make it so wrong and not trying to fix the anger. Like the anger is the problem here. The anger isn't the problem, right? The anger is just the symptom. So it's no point getting angry that you have a wound that's pussy, right? The pus isn't the problem; it's the infection that's beneath the pus, right? And so to get rid of the pus, it's no point just wiping it off and being angry that or resistant towards the pus that's going. I know this is a gross example, but we need to be willing to clean the wound out to deal with the infection, and then pus isn't a symptom anymore. It's the same with anger, right? Don't make the anger wrong. Anger is basically just like pus. Pus is basically your immune system trying to get the infection out, right? It's carrying it out of your body. Anger is the same. It's trying to carry this trauma out of your energetic fields. So first and foremost, accept that anger is not wrong. Don't resist anger. And I know why you don't like the way that anger makes you feel. A lot of that is a programmed response. Anger has been made, hey, Sister Julie, anger has been made very wrong by our authorities, whether it be religious authorities, our parental authorities, our societal authorities, our education system authorities. Authorities in general have made anger very, very wrong. And thus they inspire guilt in us whenever we get angry. So unfortunately, when anger arises within us, rather than being quite a wholesome experience of us expressing our discontent with we're not having our needs met in this situation, it gets tinged, gets tainted, it gets manipulated with all of this guilt that I'm not supposed to be angry right now, but I am. So there's this push-pull going on inside of ourselves where we feel angry, but we're not supposed to express anger, which makes us even more angry now because our need to express our anger is not being met. So we're angry that we're not allowed to be angry. This unfortunately snowballs into a very unhealthy relationship with anger, and where we get more angry with ourselves for being angry that another person is abusing us than we are with them for abusing us. This is unfortunately a difficult state to navigate. And so, to start with, the more that we can relax out of the wrongness of anger and let go of this guilt that arises when we feel angry, the more we are going to be able to direct our anger in more empowered ways, not necessarily keep suppressing it until it breaks out in rage and we act in unconscious and potentially damaging ways. This is what happens, and this is what then they feed back. The people who have made anger very wrong have created a situation where many people suppress their anger till it bursts out of them in rage, and then people get rageful, and then they use that as an example. They go, "See, that's why anger is really bad, because look at that person in rage over there being so destructive." Right? They created that problem, and then they use the outcome of what they created to therefore justify why they said that anger's wrong in the first place. The reason they said anger's wrong in the first place is that angry people create change. Angry people get up and revolt against the oppression that these authorities are placing over our society. So they make anger wrong so that we don't all sharpen our pitchforks and go and overthrow them. The fact is they are few and we are many. And when we get angry enough and unified in solidarity around the fact that the authorities are not meeting our needs right now, then we will overthrow them. That's what happens. So one of the ways that they try and prevent that from happening is making anger wrong, so that as soon as we start getting angry, that we're all getting abused basically by their authoritarian power, that we then feel guilty. Guilty people are easy to control. Guilty people feel ashamed of themselves and keep their heads down and don't say boo to no one, right? And they suppress their anger and take it out on their kids rather than take it out on the government, right? Unfortunately, that's what's happening in our society. Society's not giving people what they need to express themselves. They get angry and they take their anger out on the people who are closest to them, the people who they feel or think on a level, it's usually subconscious, won't reject them for being angry, like their kids and their partners, right? And this is why we have such a problem with domestic violence, et cetera, in our society, because people have been disempowered from engaging in their anger, their sacred rage, that they're not having their needs, their deep soulful needs given by our society. So, yeah, awesome, Audra. Audra said, I've changed the words I am angry to I am passionate. Yeah, and even just reframing it and saying I am feeling angry as opposed to saying I am angry is also a very empowering thing to do and a great thing to do with all emotions. But it's true, it's passion, right? This same vibration, are you feeling anxious or are you feeling excited? It's very difficult to tell sometimes. Are you feeling angry or are you passionate about the subject that you're talking about, right? It's these are fine lines, and it's very easy to get put in the angry bucket when we start speaking out against what is basically wrong in our society from our point of view, right? Everything is relative, of course. There's no true absolute wrongness. It is all, working for some way, but from our perspective, it's not meeting our needs. It's not beneficial to us, and thus we speak out against it, or we act out against it. We protest against it. People say, "Oh, look, those angry people," right? As if it's something wrong for them to be angry. Of course, they're angry. They're not having their needs met, right? So we need to redefine as individuals and as a society our relationship with anger, because as long as we keep making anger wrong and keep feeling bad that we feel angry, and not wanting to feel angry, wanting to have all of the problems taken away so we no longer have an opportunity to be angry, we're going to be living a very disempowered life, a very small life. So hopefully that helps. the first step, and there are, of course, therapies and ways of dealing with finding acceptance and forgiveness around the traumas that have occurred in your past. But a big important one is to or find a more empowered relationship. Let go of the wrongness of feeling angry about this, right? And I get it. As beings of light, we don't like to be angry. Because we're carrying many programs around that, and it just doesn't feel that good to us. But it's necessary. It's necessary that we're angry at this time, and it's necessary that we channel our anger in empowered ways to actually stand up and get something done so that this world can start evolving into a place that is more conducive to our needs getting met, right? To us living in this collaborative community that we all desire from a foundation of love, rather than the hate and the division and the competition that's still being emphasized by various authoritarian powers that are clinging by a thread to their authority at this stage, right? Because their time is coming to an end. So they're acting very desperately and very intensely. We have to recognize that the intensification of the current situation on the planet is actually a good sign that it is coming to an end. This old paradigm is coming to an end, and not things getting worse or going backwards. Anyway, my friends, as per usual, I've gone well over time for Chat with Matt. Much love to you all. I will be back next week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you feel that I can help you in other ways, if you want to have a light language session, etc., just reach out. You can either pop a comment here and I'll give you my email address and we can converse that way, or anything else. I apologize that I didn't read a lot of the comments today. They were scrolling through quick, and I was on a bit of a roll with various passionate agendas of delivery, but I will look through them in a moment and answer any that I didn't really speak to in written form, or we can always talk about it next week. Much love to you all. Holding space, right? Hold space for each other. Be compassionate with yourself. If you need to rest, if you need to have time out, get out in nature. Do things that nurture yourself on a deeply energetic level. Don't get too caught up in the passion of what you're angry about, to the point that it creates a mentality that is stressful. It is important that we all let go of our stress so that we can channel this anger in more intuitive and empowered ways. Because if we start channeling our anger from our mind, we're going to get into trouble. So don't get too caught up in the mentality in reading your feed and all of the information, because it's a minefield. Don't. Some information is good, right? I'm not saying be blind, stick your head in the sand, although sometimes having a complete break is good for your mental health and thus your spiritual health. But ultimately, be moderate and don't fall too deep down the rabbit hole and get too caught up in all of the implications and the mentalizations of this, because you will diminish your vibration in doing so. And when your vibration is diminished, you have less influence in a positive way on the planet. Stay high vibrational, my friends. Stay authentically positive, not toxically positive, but authentically positive in your intention to be the change you want to see on this planet, to live life from a space that is more conducive to a society evolving around you that meets your needs from a space of love. With love. Bye for now, friends. Much love.